Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another live. If you're new here, my name is Laken, and I go live every Wednesday at 1 p.m. Eastern to answer any questions you have about goals, planning, life, whatever you feel like you need a friend, some extra support, some tough love, a pep talk, whatever it is that you need. I am here to give you those answers. I love hanging out each week, just chatting. And I feel like I've gotten to know a lot of you through our live time together. And hopefully you feel like you've gotten to know me better as well. I mean, we've been doing these for almost 2.5 years now, which is just kind of blows my mind a bit. Let's kick it off though with our first question that we always start with, which is, what are you drinking while we're hanging out? The original name came because I started it at noon, which was kind of a latte time for a lot of us. I actually just have water today. I did not need another cup of coffee, and it is just too hot in here for hot tea. And I've never really made iced tea at home. So I am just sticking with water today and staying hydrated. If you're here live, let us know in the live chat what you're drinking while we are watching together. And if you are catching the replay, I want you to let us know down in the comments what you're drinking, eating, doing, whatever it is that you are enjoying or working on while you are watching the live. Yes, good afternoon to those over here on the East Coast or on the other side of the pond. Good morning to our friends over in on the West Coast. Coffee and a water, sweet tea, Joanna water. I've had way too much coffee today. That's how I feel too. I didn't sleep well, and so I know I want to try and crash early tonight. So I'm hoping that just no more coffee for me today. Also, anybody else having this issue? Trader Joe's has been out of the cold brew concentrate the last 2 times we've gone to Trader Joe's, like since we have gotten home from our honeymoon. So I've just been getting like the actual cold brew, and I do not like it near as much as the concentrate. So that's kind of a bummer. So I have not been enjoying my coffee as much as I wanted to, but it's fine. Okay. Also, really quick reminder, not reminder, because you probably don't know this. There will be no live next week. I am still working, but we are going to be in a different city. Sam qualifies for an incentive trip every year through work. This is the 5th year that he's qualified. Of course, we haven't gone in 2 years because of the pandemic, but we are going next week, and I'm very excited. I'm just going to be working from the hotel while we're there, and then we have things in the evening, but I wasn't sure what the setup was going to be like, what the internet was going to be like in terms of doing a live. So maybe I'll change my mind and I will do an impromptu live. The other thing is they always do some sort of event for the guests, and that event is scheduled from 9 to noon on Wednesday morning. 9 to noon Central. So if we do an impromptu live next week, it might be a different day or different time. I will keep you updated, both here on YouTube and on Instagram, but there's a video that will be scheduled to go live on Wednesday in place of a live. So just FYI, there's unlikely going to be a live at this exact time next week because so here's the other thing. They don't tell you, they haven't told us yet, at least what the event is. In years past, sometimes they have, and then it's like limited first come, first serve, and you can sign up. Like I went to the Seattle Aquarium, which was very cool the year we went to Seattle, but the website says family and guest event 9 to noon Wednesday, but it doesn't say what it is, and you can't sign up for it yet. So I may not go, depending on what it is, but I definitely want to keep that open in case I change my mind. So, all right. No drink here, but just finished an ice cream cone. Yum. I love that. Diet Coke and water and orange juice to go with my breakfast for lunch. Oh my gosh, Rachel, I love that. I've never thought about really like breakfast for lunch. You know, breakfast, obviously a breakfast, and then breakfast for dinner is really popular, but breakfast for lunch, I love that. Okay. I think I'm all caught up on what everyone is having to drink while we hang out. Let's get to the questions. Questions are on your mind. It can be about you and your goals, something you're struggling with. It could be a question you have about me and my goals, or something from a video I've posted, or it can just be a random question that you have on your mind. If you don't know how to phrase it into a question and you want to put topic instead of the question, you can just put topic and we can chat about the topic. Also, if your YouTube name is not the name that you like to go by, I would love for you to include your name in the comment. That way I can address you by your name. I'd appreciate that. Oh my God, breakfast for lunch equals brunch. Yes. On the weekends, I guess I am the queen of breakfast for lunch. I was thinking about like the weekdays. I've never really like thought about having breakfast food as my lunch. I always just have lunch food. What is even lunch food? It's the same as dinner food, right? That is a conversation that we do not need to have today. Diane, I need a kickstart to start on my goals again. So, it's funny. So I'm filming videos today for September, and one of the topics I'm doing coming soon is how to stay focused on 2022 and not get distracted by 2023. So it's similar to this, but what I will tell you here is one of the biggest things that's probably holding you back from starting on your goals again, or your mindset of starting on them again, is you have way too many. And you're thinking like, well, based on what progress I have or haven't made in 2022, I have all these goals that I want to continue to focus on for the rest of the year. And life has changed a lot. There's 4 months left in a year, which is a lot of time, but at the same time, it's not a whole year. So instead of saying all of your goals, the best thing you could do for yourself is to pick one that's really important to you, that you do make progress on in 2022. I'm not going to say finish, because most of the time we aren't even finishing if there is an end state, or you may or may not finish it by the end of the year. So I would pick one goal that you want to focus on, and focus on starting that one goal and letting that build the momentum you need to maybe work on other goals, or maybe not. Maybe it's just prioritizing that one goal. But it can feel like, well, I want to do all of them. These are all the goals that I set. But if you're not doing any of that, then let go of it and focus on one. I understand the frustration. You're like, but I get it. You want to do all of them, but isn't doing one of them better than just doing one? So, or better than doing none. So pick your one goal and pick a small thing to start on, and focus on that momentum instead of massive progress. Because at this point, well, yes, at the same 4 months is a lot, but at the same time, 4 months is not a lot. I don't want you to be worried about progress, like the amount of progress. I want you to be focused on making any progress at all. And in order to do that, you're going to have to get started. So I hope that was a little bit helpful. Let me know if you have any additional follow-ups, or if you want to share with us what that one goal is that you might focus on. And like, I'm going to say September, because it's almost September. And if you need any help breaking it down or picking that initial starting step. Taco salad and water. Excited to catch you live, usually part of the replay fam. Arlene, I'm so glad they're able to join us live as well. Joanne, I'll come back to your question in just a second. Amanda, I can't believe it's almost September. I know it does feel so close to the end of the year, but at the same time, it's still 4 months. And I know that it's hard to focus. But 4 months is a lot of time. So that is why I'm doing a video about it coming soon, how to stay focused on 2022 and not get distracted with 2023. Okay, Joanna, what are some of your wins from this last week? So I got all of the honeymoon photos printed out. So now I can start like organizing them and figure out how I'm going to put them. I ordered like a 12 by 12 album, which is massive, y'all. Like that thing, I did not realize it was going to be that big. But I took a lot of photos, and I would like to have them documented. So I got all those printed. I'm trying to think. Honestly, I've been in a little bit of a slump in terms of goal progress, minus just like enjoying my life and my friends. So. Hello, Amy. Excited for goal setting tonight. Yes, if you're a member of the Patreon community, our monthly goal setting session is tonight to set up our goals. While you might be like, it's a little bit early, there's still a week left in the month, 100% understand. If you're not ready to set your September goals tonight, just catch the replay when you are ready to work on them. Maybe it's over the weekend, but because we are traveling, that's why it's this week. The live session is this week. You can still join us if you want to join us in Patreon and you need help setting your September goals. I'm actually really, really excited about tonight. So normally every month, in addition to it being a working time for you to set up your goals for the next month, I also every month have a topic that we like to talk about, almost like a little teaching moment. And the topic for this week is the energy spectrum that we talked about. Was that last week's live? Week before last? And I made a slide all about it. I love the way it turned out. And I'm just like really excited to share that with them tonight. That's the topic. So it's going to be good. Patricia, common errors, too many goals and steps that aren't broken down small enough. Absolutely. So I'm assuming this is just like a topic, something you would like a little bit of help on or suggestions. So yes, most of the time we do have too many goals and we aren't breaking them down enough. That is a very common struggle that we all have. So I have made, it feels like I've made separate videos on all these different topics that you can always go back and rewatch if you feel like you need that little extra umph. And I've said this in a few places before, but I feel like when I put out a video, if you are the kind of person like me, I keep up with my YouTube subscription feed. Unless I'm out of town, like pretty much within the week, I watch anybody I'm subscribed to. You're going to watch it that first time with your current goals in mind. That's not a bad thing. That's just what happens. Now, if we're 6 months later and you're still struggling with that thing, you might need to go back and rewatch that video with now your current goals in mind, right? A lot could have changed since the first time you watched it. So the too many goals solution is the prioritization. I have a video on how to prioritize and how to pick and narrow down your goals. Error 2 is not breaking them down small enough. And I have lots and lots of videos on how to break down your goals. The thing I'm going to say here is, especially as we get later in the year, and especially right, it just seems like this time of the year, especially with back to school and football starting and all kinds of things, like we have very limited free time. I was setting up my own September goals and I was like, man, I have like no free time in September. We've got to eliminate things. We're going to have to cut goals. And the reminder that every month can look different. Our progress does not have to be the same over the course of the entire month or every month over the course of the entire year. So just because you've had other months where you've had lots of progress, if right now you need to cut back on things and prioritize because you don't have time to do that many goals, do that. Same thing with breaking down the steps. If it feels too small, then you've broken it down enough, right? There is no right answer in terms of how far to break it down. It really does depend on your life and your schedule and your goals. But I don't think there's any negative to continuing to break them down. And if you have to end up lumping things together, awesome. More check marks are always better. Joanna, I love this. I always feel super motivated as a fresh start in September, even though I'm an adult. Can you buy yourself a new pencil case as a treat? I am always here for bribery. And even if you don't have kids or you're not buying yourself supplies in September, it's fun to go to the store and go to the school supply section and like browse around. How many pictures did you take on your honeymoon? 1,000 maybe. It felt like 1,000. She is, spoiler alert, video coming soon. That's like a recap of our honeymoon and included some pictures and videos. There's no way it's that many because it was like on average 20 to 30 per day times 15 days. That's not 1,000. Ooh, Amy, I like this question. I'm having trouble focusing my goals because I'm missing my family and just feeling down. Any tips on how to take care of emotional health without procrastinating too much on goals? So you almost hit the nail on the head there. The step 1 is like, why are you feeling down? And it seems like you know the answer to that. And so option 1 is like, we need, like, what can you do to help with that? Not that any reason, if you're ever feeling down, I've been there. There's nothing that's like an overnight solution that's going to fix it in 2 seconds. But what are the steps that we need to take? Now, my guess is that you're not going to be able to see your family anytime soon. Likely you aren't able. I know why you're not able to travel. And so that might not be a solution. What are some of the other things you could do to see them, even if it's virtual, to spend time with them? I know we're all a little bit virtualed out, but just something to kind of fulfill that need for you, because otherwise sometimes that's all we think about. Step 2 is it doesn't have to be a one or the other, right? We don't need to, okay, let me take care of my emotional health and focus on that and essentially, quote unquote, fix it. Then I get to work on my goals, right? It's not a if then situation most of the time, because it's going to take time for that emotional mental health to work on that. And the longer that you're not working on your goals, the more momentum that you're losing, et cetera, et cetera. So what I would advise you to do is figure out how you can do them at the same time. Now, I'm not saying a 50-50 split. That is likely unreasonable right now. So maybe it's a 90-10, right? 90% of the time you're taking care of yourself, whatever that looks like, whether that's something else that makes you happy, spending time with your partner, reading a book, whatever, like buying a new book, whatever makes you happy, right? And then 10% of the time on your goals. And I would kind of, going back to the advice I gave earlier, I would pick one goal, right? Because sometimes if you're trying to focus on too many things, you're just going to get distracted and do none of them. So I would pick one goal, and 90-10 might not be the right split for you either, right? That's not the suggestion I'm giving. The suggestion I'm giving is that it doesn't need to be 50-50. And what you need right now might be this percent emotional, mental focus, this percent goals, but try to do them a little bit at the same time. Amy, question about an important goal for me. I'm good at writing down what I want and scheduling it in my planner. Great. When it comes time to do it, I do everything but that, even with the smallest breakdown. Example would be working out. I schedule the time, I put the clothes on, but then I don't do it. I feel like something is wrong with me. How do I fix it? So you obviously covered, because you've been around, the couple of things that you know are the first couple steps, right? It's what is the step, breaking it down, scheduling time for it. If it comes time to it, there's likely a couple of reasons why you're not doing it in that moment. The first one could be that you're still starting too big, right? I know you and your goals, and you've done big, long Peloton rides before. So you likely in your head feel like, well, I could schedule a 45-minute ride, and if I have time for it, I know I can do it because I've done it before. But if it's been a long time since you've done it, or you're not doing the 45-minute ride, stop trying to do the 45-minute ride. Do a 10-minute one and just do that. Make it smaller. Like, stop trying to make it something massive. In the same vein, maybe it's making it different, right? At one point, I'm not saying you're never going to actually ride your Peloton again, but maybe it's not a ride. Maybe it's a strength workout, or try something totally different. Instead of don't follow the hardcore calendar, just pick a strength workout based on the instructor or the music or whatever you want to base it on, and stop trying to do something that isn't working for you, right? Change it, do something different. The other thing is reminding yourself why this goal is important to you now, because again, you're likely comparing yourself to what you used to do, whatever that frequency and duration was. Just because it doesn't have to be the extremes, right? Going back to the spectrum, there could be something in the middle. Why is it still important to you to do something more than zero? And remember that it's okay that you don't do the same whatever duration or frequency you were doing before. I just vomited a lot of things out at you. But I feel like the biggest steps I would try, making it smaller and switching up the activity. There's 1,000,001 ways to achieve any goal. So if somebody else is struggling with this with a different goal, do something different. Patricia, yes. Sometimes if you're avoiding your goal, you need to look at your why. Why am I doing this, and why is it important? Absolutely. I know there's a couple conversations happening at the same time. We had Amy's question about connecting. Amber made a suggestion. I send music videos to those I miss who are far away, creates an amazing connection. I love that. And then the conversation about it could be any goal, right, that you schedule and you make time for it and you break it down. And then when it's time to actually do it, you don't want to do it. I've been struggling with this with a few business things, and I've had to do the whole do something else, right? It's not like either I do this thing that I had planned or I sit on the couch and watch TV. No, I'm going to work. So what else can you do? What are the other things that I could be doing? So the same thing is going to be true for all of you. So Amanda, I see your comment here. I have a problem with this. If we're specifically saying working out, my why is to be healthier, but apparently that isn't enough to actually make me do it. So Amanda, that's when we do the but why exercise, right? Great. You want to be healthier. Awesome. Why? Why do you want to be healthier? And then you answer that question. And then you take that answer and you ask yourself why again. And you keep going until that why is something that literally that means more to you than you could possibly say. Rachel, I'm going to come back to your question because we're going to finish this workout conversation and then I see your question. Yes, Cheney, exactly. I went from 30-minute rides 3 times a week down to 1 15-minute walk last week and trying for 2. Also away from my bike, so trying tread. It sometimes can be so overwhelming when you've done something in the past and you're like, well, I did it then. Why can't I do it now? Things are different now. Whether the only thing that's different is that you haven't been doing it for a certain amount of time, it's still different. And so you can't expect yourself to operate at that same level that you were operating at before. Joanna, this happens to me because I can't predict in advance what I'll feel like doing at a certain time. Can you schedule a slot with a list of things to choose from? I also like this suggestion about having options. This is especially beneficial if you lean in the rebel tendency, in the Gretchen Rubin 4 tendencies, is telling yourself what you're going to do in advance. And then when it comes time to do that, you're like, but I don't actually want to do that. Also, another kind of option here is having a minimum amount of time and saying like, if I want to do more, I can do more, but like I have to do 5 minutes. And then like, if after 5 minutes you want to be done, but at least you did 5 minutes. It's like I'm predicting. I keep scrolling down and seeing exactly what I said. That tells me we're saying it. We're saying the same things. Walking is my goal and I made it super small. Decided to walk just 5 minutes to begin. I still had the feeling of failure because 5 minutes seems like nothing. Oh, Amanda, I get that. I get it. When you're not doing what you want to be doing or what somebody else is doing, it can feel that way, but think about doing 0. How would you feel at 0? Would that also feel like failing? If that feels like failing, then 5 is not, because 5 is more than 0. So 5 is something. It's more than what you're doing now. And 5, the benefit to the 5 is not even just that it's 5 minutes. It's still 5 minutes. That's awesome. But it's the momentum that gets you going and that gets you off the couch or out of the chair or outside, whatever it is that you need to kickstart that momentum. I can't get my mindset to change that something is still something, even if it feels really small. So you're right that it is a mindset thing, but there are some other options or ways that you can remind yourself that it is still something, even without worrying about your mindset. The first one is making sure that you're still tracking it, right? Like you get credit for that 5 minutes. The problem sometimes can be like if you set these massive goals and then you're like, well, I don't feel like doing 30 minutes, so I'm just going to do 5, but your piece of paper goal sheet says 30. Like, well, then that doesn't feel like enough. So you get a check mark, whatever that is, for the smaller step, for the 5 minutes. And I think it's the reminder that it's more than what you were doing before, right? The words more and better. It's not perfect. It's not the best. It's not the extreme. It's more. It's slightly more, slightly better. It's that 1% improvement. Hartley, this is also a great reminder. People get bored. I recently switched from strength training to yoga, not because I didn't want to be active, but because I was bored. Yeah. Like we get our bodies and our brains get frustrated doing the same thing over and over again. The whole concept of smallest piece to gain momentum has been exactly what I've needed lately. It is, I understand that when I tell you to break something down and do it just for 5 minutes or do 1%, you're like, but that's not going to move the needle, Laken. Like doing 1% is not going to change anything. I am going to revert you back to that graph. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, Google 1% atomic habits. Okay. And there's a graph that if you improve 1% every day for a year, by the end of the year, you will have improved 38%. Okay. That's how the math works. That's part of it, right? Over time, 1% also will improve, will will make a difference. It will add up. But at the end of the day, the benefit of the 1% is just getting you started, because it's too hard to do 100%. It's too hard to go from 0 to 100. You literally can't put your foot on the gas that hard. Like it's too hard. So you have to pick the smaller steps, because that is the only way that you will get started. And that's the only way that you're ever going to make any progress. And also the concept of just because you've done it one way doesn't mean it's always going to work that way. Lots of things have changed since maybe it worked for you, right? So I know that you used to work out at 6:30 a.m. That used to work for you, and now you're doing it at a different time. It's okay to try something else. I've said this before, but goal setting can be a lot of trial and error. It's a lot of experimenting and seeing if it works. And it might work and it might not work. And that's when we've got to be okay with patience and the lack of immediate satisfaction, and that it's going to take time. But if we won't actually know if that works for us until we try it, whether that is the time of day, whether that's the amount of time, whether that's the type of workout. And I know we are specifically talking about this goal, but you could apply these concepts to literally any goal at all. I also, the conversations that y'all are having in the chat are making me very happy. I'm not sharing all of them on the screen, but y'all, I just love it so much. Amy, I'm also wondering if this time of year is just challenging for some reason. A lot of us seem to be having similar challenges. I think it's this time of year. Yes, absolutely. I think we're in this weird transition, whether you go back to school or not. It's like summer into fall, and the weather, depending on where you live, may or may not be cooperating yet. And you're just like, on one hand, you're like, there's still 4 months left in the year, but on one hand, you're like, there's only 4 months left in the year. And it's a lot. Like, there's a lot. So all the reminders that, like, you don't have to operate the same every day. You don't have to operate the same every month. It's okay to change your mind. It's okay to try new things. It's okay to make it smaller. Progress is still progress. All right, I'm going to go back up a smidge to a question that was on this topic of like physical movement, but slightly different. Debbie, I need to lose over 100 pounds and work on fitness. I start with a personal trainer in my home on Friday. What are some small fitness goals? And I'm 56 and really starting below ground with fitness. So first off, hiring an expert, always an incredibly, incredibly awesome option if that fits within your budget to work on any particular goal. So the fact that you're hiring a personal trainer is amazing. They are going to be the best and most qualified person to give you fitness goals. My own personal recommendation based on my experience and the experience of those I've worked with one-on-one on this particular goal is there's like literally the two things we always start with, which is water and steps. Water makes a massive difference. Okay. Like water, I know you asked about fitness, but I'm telling you that your water intake is going to make a difference in how you feel, which is going to make a difference in your fitness outcomes. Focus on your water. And as with anything, and so here's the reminder, I'm going back even to some of the other questions. You've got to start with where you're at. So if where you're at is 0, now you're probably not drinking 0 ounces of water every day, but back to Amanda's walking question, right? If you're starting at 0 minutes a day, going to 5 is a huge jump. So for you, for anybody who wants to focus on water, I always first off recommend a cup, not a cup like an 8-ounce cup, whatever your cup is. I don't care how much it is, because measuring in ounces is complicated. And the more complicated we make our goals, the less likely we are going to execute them. So pick a cup that you like. I don't care, any cup. I don't care how big it is. How many of those for 1 week? I just want you to track where you're at. Don't push yourself. How many cups are you drinking? Is it a half of one? Is it one? Is it one and a little bit? Like, what is it that you're drinking? And then the next week, you're going to up it by a half. And then you're going to work on that. And until you're doing that like six out of 7 days of the week, that's the goal. You're keeping it at that. That's another struggle I think we always have in general, is we feel like we need to up our goals every single week or every single month. You might not. You don't know when it's time to up your goal until it's time to up your goal. So work at that 1.5 until it feels consistent, until it feels good. Then you up it to 2. And then you keep progressing until you feel good about the amount of water you're drinking. I don't care how many ounces that is. There's, so much research out there on how many ounces you need. It has so many variables that there is no right answer. but I guarantee you, you probably could be drinking more water. Steps, same way. Week 1, you're just going to track where you're at. Where are you at? How many steps do you take on a regular basis? I do not care what the number is when I do this with people. I'm not looking for a certain number. I don't want you to push yourself. I want you to know, what is your baseline? Where are you at? And then you're going to up it a tiny, tiny bit. And I'm more likely to give a weekly step goal than a daily step goal, but small, tiny steps. Walking is the best way to get started with movement. But I'm excited for you and your personal trainer, and I hope that they have some great suggestions for you as well. Okay, Kimberly, great question. When you're working on a goal of consistency, like working out, how do you determine when you have met that and can now work on increasing your movement? So similar to the water example I just gave, you're never likely going to hit 100%. I have never had a goal where except maybe like sometimes when I track my sleep, but even then, that's not always perfect. Life is not perfect. So we are never going to be perfect. So you've got to feel like what feels good to you. And 80 to 90% is usually kind of what I shoot for, depending on the goal. So if I set a goal to work out 5 times a week, and if I'm doing that one, I mean, do you need to up it? No. So let's even make it smaller, right? So you set a goal to do 1 time a week. Let's say you hit that 4 or 5 weeks. Then maybe you can up it to 2 the next week. And I want to remind you, there's 2 ways. Actually, with movement, there's actually like another way, but there's really 2 ways to increase that kind of goal, right? There's frequency, the number of times per week, and duration, the length. And everybody is going to be different in terms of their preferences based on their own personal preferences and their schedules. And everybody is going to be different. So for me personally, I would prefer more frequency, shorter workouts. Like I would rather work out 5 times a week for 30 minutes at a time. My husband is different. He would rather do longer workouts and have less of them to complete during the week. So he was, before we left on our honeymoon, but has not gotten back into it yet, was working on just 3 times a week. And he started at 10 minutes, right? And then upped it to 15 and then upped it to 20. And then he's working on upping just the duration and not the frequency. So you have both of those options. For working out, you can also up intensity, or you can also add heavier weights. That's improvement. You can beat your scores on a bike, right? You can up intensity rather than time or duration. So the other thing I want to say on this topic is it's really hard. It's hard to know, okay? And the next week, you might feel good, and then you up it, and then you fall short. That's not failing. That's life, okay? It's not failing. It's life. So if you up it and you don't hit it, you can go back, or you can stay the same and you keep working at the same. Going backwards and staying the same is not failing. Even going down to 0 is not failing, but I want you to know that like it's okay to go back a little bit, right? So if you've worked your way up, especially if you take time off, but even if you don't, that week might just have been a lot for you, right? So if you work your way up to something and then you miss a week, or it's hard, or you fall short, scale it back and work at that level and then work your way back up. It's okay. I feel like that is a really important topic that we don't talk about enough. That scaling back or staying the same is not failure. Kimberly, I will stop if I don't do it almost daily. So now I want to work on duration increases. Okay, thank you for sharing that detail with me. Let me give you some specific advice on that then. If you are somebody that needs to do it daily, which I completely understand, because I can be the same way with working out, that if I lose momentum, it's hard for me to get back into it. Every day is going to be different. So setting a duration goal for every single day can be really, really, really hard. Because there's going to be days that feels great, and then there's going to be days that feels impossible. And so what I would do for you if you want to increase your duration is you could have a minimum daily amount that you like need to do. Maybe it's 5 minutes, maybe it's 10 minutes. I would set a weekly duration goal, right? So let's say right now you're doing 10 minutes a day, so 7 days a week. So that's 70 minutes a week. instead of upping it to 15 minutes a day, because there might be days that 15 minutes is just too much. Instead of upping it to 15 minutes a day, what if you just upped it to 100 minutes a week? Which that's actually a big jump. I would probably advise you to do something smaller, like 80 or 85. Either way, a weekly goal. That way, on the days that you do have that extra energy or that extra time, you can up your duration a little bit and get some credit towards your weekly goal. But on the days that you cannot handle it, you do your 10 minutes and you're good to move on. Let me know if that makes sense. That is how I would tackle that if you're trying to do it every single day, because every day is different. And setting habits for our best days, it just sets us up for failure on our worst. Okay, Joanna, I'm going to come back to your question because I am going to scroll up to Rachel's question that she submitted way back when we were having this other conversation. I moved to a warmer climate recently, and I'm really bummed about not having all 4 seasons. Fall is your favorite time. What can I do to get that cozy, cold feel when I'm at the beach? It's 90 degrees. I would ask yourself, what are all the things that you love about fall that are within your control, right? So is it the fall decorations? Is it fall movies? Is it fall candles? Fall flowers? Is it like you're not going to get the temperature outside, so you're going to have to do everything else? Is it going to hay rides? I don't know where you moved. I forget where you moved to, but even if it is not cold out, hopefully your where you live is still doing fall things. It might feel weird to go to a hayride, not a sweater. And then can you maybe buy a looser, or not looser, like thinner sweaters, right? So you can still wear a sweater, but it's not like you're not dying. But what are the other things you love about fall that you can get that's not the weather? And then I would also recommend that and I know your life is chaotic right now, but if you can, when you can, plan a weekend getaway, a short weekend getaway to a place that does feel like the season that you want to feel, right? So maybe it's going to visit the Northeast in the fall, and then it's visiting New York at Christmas time, like whatever, going to make sure that you hit those other seasons that you don't get at home. And you don't have to do it in the summer because you get that season. People come to you in that season. Oh, you moved to Charleston. That's right. Yeah. You guys probably have somewhat of a fall and a spring, and it's not New York fall and spring. Oh yeah, and the ambience videos. I've recently just put one on that was like Hogwarts ambiance, guys. Ambiance, however you say that word. It was amazing. Okay, I'm going to go back to Joanna's question. I'm struggling to structure my days now that I'm temporarily working for myself. I struggle to start in the AM and then get absorbed and burn out in the PM. How do you decide to structure yours? So this is very tough, and I'm going to tell you that I'm still figuring it out some weeks, some days, and every day is going to look different. So by the time you figure this out, you're going to be back at work. So I'm not even sure that there's too much that you could do that's going to fix, like there's not a quick fix for this kind of struggle, unfortunately, that I'm going to be able to help you utilize in the next 2.5 weeks. That said, the reminder that every day is different. So there are going to be days that you're going to get a lot more done than other days. I know we talked about you having a weekly goal for your project instead of a daily goal. That's exactly why. And then I would just have some anchors to your day, right? So like for me, it's starting with my morning routine. Recently, it's been the Pomodoro cycles. That has really been working for me. And then doing my communication routine at 4 kind of anchors me there. Sometimes I do more work in the evening afterwards. That also kind of depends on what Sam is doing. And so yours might be the same way, depending on what your partner is doing in the evening, whether you keep working or not. But if you burn out, then it's fine. Like, then don't worry about it. You don't need to keep pushing yourself into it, right? If you're done with it. So I don't know if that is helpful or not, because at the end of the day, it takes a lot of time to figure this out. And I just don't know that I have any quick tips for you to implement in this short time frame that you have. Debbie, the Blue Ridge Mountains are beautiful and not terribly far from you. Was it the Braun family, like Jessica Braun and her husband? Did they go here? Because I saw a YouTube video. Somebody I follow on YouTube did a vlog where they went to here, and it was beautiful. and I want to go to there. It looked so beautiful. Christy, I have a big dream, life-changing goal that I need to complete, but I'm terrified of failure. In the beginning of the year, I hyperventilated during a certification test. Well, first off, giving you a big virtual hug, and just know that like you're not alone. We all have those fears. What I would encourage you to do, step one, is define what is failure, right? Like what is the worst case scenario? What does failure mean, right? So for this scenario, maybe it's failing that test. So then what does that mean if you failed? Like, do you lose your job? Do you just not get to apply for a new job? When do you get to take it again? How often can you take it? Do you find out a score and what areas you need to improve on in order to take it again? When I feel like what's holding me back is fear, I define what is fear. What is that? What is that failure? What does that look like? And then what would I do in the scenario that came true? Now, sometimes that worst case failure scenario is actually like very improbable, and our brains are just like making it out to be way worse than it's going to be. Sometimes it's not that improbable if it's something like a test that it is X% of people don't pass the first try. So, okay, that's what failure is. Well, what do you do when that happens? What would you do next? And feel good about the steps that you would take when that does happen. And then on the flip side, ask yourself, what would happen if I never did it? Okay, well, if you're afraid of failing, then what would happen? What would your life look like if you never even tried? And that is an option for all of us. It's an option. It doesn't actually mean it's the bad option. That is the scenario that sometimes is the road that we want to go down. But ask yourself if that is not where you want to go, if that's not the option for you, then you've got to decide that not having that is more important than the worst case scenario of failing. Oh, I see your other comment. I need to take the test again. I've been putting off studying for months. I'm terrified of actually succeeding at the goal of getting the job. Fear of success is another one of those like really big, I think I have a video on that somewhere. Another really big scenario. So ask yourself first off, why are you scared of succeeding at the job? What does that look like? Most of the time, it's because we are going to have to do something new, and it's change and new and change and new. Even if it's an amazing thing, like getting an awesome job that you're excited about, it's freaking scary and freaking uncomfortable. And we don't want that uncomfortableness. We don't want that change or that newness. But ask yourself again, what happens if I don't? What does life look like if I don't? And if that is not the scenario that you want, then you've got to overcome the fear. And then in terms of actually getting started, you're going to have to focus on that momentum, because studying for something is going to feel overwhelming. And it's, when we think about it as the big picture, like all the material I have to study, it's like, wow, I cannot, like, there's no way I'm going to be able to get through all of that. Well, the only way you can get through it is if you just start. So you've got to at least start with step one, right? Press play on that first video, read that first chapter, whatever study method you're doing. Asheville, North Carolina, Katie, I've also heard amazing things about there. Jess, any tips on how to prepare for a trip at the last minute? I'm going to Spain for a week. Oh my gosh, that's so exciting. I mean, haven't packed or planned at all. Okay, so in 2 days, that's a lot. So first off, if you can take any additional time off of work before you leave to like do that, you're probably also trying to balance all of that, and that is a lot. If you haven't planned anything, I think you'll be fine. Like, plan once you get there, ask your hotels for advice, or when you're in the airport, look up what you want to do in Spain, not worrying about that. In terms of packing, Google a packing list and start making a list. I think look at the weather. And this is like, I could not imagine being 2 days out and like not having that much. Like, I started putting stuff in a suitcase like 2 weeks out. I do have a whole video on preparing for travel. Maybe press play on that and start just like pulling things out of your closet. Tanya, great question. I see there's two pieces here. Is there a minimum number of hours you force yourself to work on your business every day? If I study less than the number of hours I used to work, I feel like I'm cheating myself. So the answer to this is no, because first off, that's not why I left my corporate job, was to work necessarily the same number of hours. But the truth is I just work a different number of hours. I pretty much always work on the weekends, at least one of the days. And then there's usually at least one weeknight that I work into the night. Tonight happens to be that night because I'm doing the goal setting session. So I don't have a minimum of hours per day. I have a minimum tasks, things I want to get done. And then however long that takes me, sometimes it's more, sometimes it's less. It's not fair to compare what you used to do versus what you do now, right? When we just talked about this in the Patreon Q&A on Saturday, humans likely can't focus straight for 40 hours a week. Like, we just can't. We're not productive for that many hours a week. And so you're going to get more done if you work less hours. That's just the truth. And so focus on what you want to get done at the end of the week, and not like, I didn't do the right number of hours. If that makes sense. Loretta, hello. Congrats on your engagement. So exciting. Would love to hear if you have any advice regarding planners, books, blogs for someone newly engaged. Anything you wish you did at this time. I mean, newly engaged, by the way, is almost 3 years ago. We got engaged October 5th of 2019. So it's been a long time since I was newly engaged. For really, stop trying to worry about all the planners. There's so many wedding planners, and I ended up using a Google spreadsheet. So even as a planner girl, I would not have ordered all the wedding planners and flipped through all of them and decided that. I wish I would have just started with the action and not worried about the planner. The knot was always really helpful. I don't know if over there they do the same thing as they do here, though. So the Knot here has magazines local to your region. And I think I bought The Knot South Texas that existed from the time I was engaged to the time we got married. But I don't know if they have that there. But wedding magazines in general were the best at the beginning. It was just fun to flip through. Lots of comments about helping her pack for Spain. I've never been to Spain, so that's also hard. But I feel like, I don't know. Packing for trips is the worst thing to me. I hate it. Absolutely hate it. I wish someone else would pack for me. Yeah, Amy, I agree. A lot of the 40-hour work week is dead time, waiting for people, etc. I found when I worked from home, I could get more done in less time because I wasn't distracted. Absolutely. Ooh, this is good advice from Joanna. My packing tip is not try to pack for every eventually. If there's an emergency, you can buy what you need in Spain. I used to way overpack before I realized this. Yeah, I don't remember if I mentioned this in a live or in that travel video, but I feel like I did say that it depends on where we're going. And I asked myself, could I buy this there? Right? If the answer is I could, then I don't need to pack more than one. I used to do that where I would pack a backup toiletry. And no, if you run out of shampoo, you can go buy another shampoo. Okay, I think I'm all caught up on comments. Any last minute questions? If you are I'm still struggling, I still don't even know where to start in September, pick one thing. That's it. Pick one thing and focus on that. There are 5 stores where we're going. There are stores where we are going. Yes. Well, exactly. If you need something, you likely will be able to get it. That's so fun, though. I hope you have a blast in Spain, Jess. I am incredibly jealous. I think I've said this before. One of my biggest regrets is not studying abroad, and I think Spain is where I would have gone. Great question. And I don't want to mispronounce your name. I don't know if it's Lot or Lottie. Do you have any tips for scheduling downtime in your days? I have issues with feeling burned out lately because I cram my days to full. 100%. It's either like I struggle with being on the extremes where I either do nothing or I cram it into full. So one of the things that has been working for me is the Pomodoro method. And I use an app. I think it's called, it literally, there's 1 trillion of these apps for the Pomodoro. The one I use is called Focus Keeper. Again, they do the same thing, right? And I click play and it focuses me for 25 minutes and then I get a 5-minute break. And during those 5 minutes, I typically go to the bathroom, fill up my water, and like scroll on my phone for the last couple of minutes. Then you cycle through that. After you do 4, it gives you a 30-minute break. And it basically forces me to take a break. Now, sometimes I use that 30 minutes to do something what you would consider productive, right? Maybe it's folding a load of laundry or putting the dishes away or something like that. It just not work, right? And that's the point, is breaks don't always have to be like me sitting on the couch watching TV, but it needs to be me not doing whatever I'm doing in that moment. So that's my first advice. Advice number 2 is making sure that you take breaks when it's time to eat. Don't eat like at your desk with lunch, like actually take that as a break. Apparently it's good. Oh, I just like got cut off there for a second. Sorry about that. I don't know. Oh, my connection is unstable. Great. Love that. Love that for us. Hopefully you can see me because I'm seeing myself back, but it doesn't like me right now. The last thing is ask yourself, so there's 2 ways to function. There's time and tasks, right? We all work differently. So some of us might over push ourselves if we work in time and saying, I need to work 40 hours a week. Whereas some of us might over push ourselves if we need to work in tasks. Like you might hit 5 p.m., but if you're not done with that task, you want to keep working on it. So figure out which one you are and then try working the other way, right? So if you're the kind of person that's like, well, these are the tasks I have to get done today, no matter how long it takes me, then don't be that person. Follow an hourly schedule and be like, I'm working from this time to this time, taking a break this time to this time. Or if you're the person who's like, I have to work 8 hours a day, regardless of even if I get all the tasks done for the week, then say, I'm going to get these 3 tasks done. And when they're done, I'm done with work for the day, right? Does that make sense? Again, I feel like we all sometimes want someone to tell us like, this is the best way to do it. And the truth is the best way is going to depend on your personal struggles with time management, your motivation, the tasks that you're working on, your boss or colleagues' expectations. Like there are so many factors and it can change. Like you could get settled one way and then it changes is another way. Cheney, how's HB90 going? If you haven't watched the replay of the cute Patreon Q&A from Saturday, it's going. I'm still struggling with some things and trying to figure some stuff out, but we're getting there. I think we're getting there. Okay. Y'all, I can't believe we're almost done. I feel like we've had some good conversations today. I am going to ask you my last question. If you have any other last minute things you need, feel free to pop it in the chat. But I'm going to turn it on you and ask you, what is one thing that you're going to do this week to make progress on your goals? And it might just be setting up your September goals. It might be cutting off some of your 2022 goals, like nixing some of them. If you're here live, I want you to share in the chat what you are doing this week to make progress on your goals. And if you're watching the replay, I want you to let us know in the comments what it is that you're going to do this week to make progress on your goals. Set up and prep for September. That's where I feel like we're all at. Set up September goals, adjusting some of your annual goals now that I've checked some big ones off. Yes, so excited for you. Such a big year. Finish your second chapter. You finished your first one yesterday. Joanna, that's like a goal step within a win at the same time. I'm so excited for you. All of the writers, continue writing your new book, currently shy of 10,000 words. Also prep for September. I love that. Rachel, the goal session is tonight at 7 p.m. Eastern, but then the replay will be up shortly after. If you can't make the live, you'll have the replay to watch if you need to wait till the weekend. Not goal related, but pack. No, that is goal related because that goal is you enjoying your vacation. I love that. Declutter clothes that are too big. I love that so much. That smiley face says it all. I love it. Schedule your eye exam. Yes, the doctor's appointments. Look at your currently weekly movement time and picking an increase for September. I love that. Kimberly, and definitely, yeah, I mean, I know we talked about it earlier, but like it doesn't have to be a huge jump. It can be a little jump. That is an improvement, right? And start with where you're at. Start your baby registry. It's so exciting. Cleaning out your mom's file cabinet, one file at a time. Yes. I just had that conversation with a patron via text the other day. She was like, the paperwork has gotten overwhelming. And I said, my response to her, I wanted to like screenshot and post everywhere. I said, just because it's gotten overwhelming doesn't mean you have to do it all at once, right? Just because it's gotten overwhelming doesn't mean you have to tackle it all at once. One file cabinet at a time. Oh my gosh, I love all of you so much. I can't wait to see all of your faces later as well. That is going to be it for this video. Joanna, it'll be after midnight your time. I get it. You can catch the replay tomorrow. Y'all are the best. Thanks for hanging out with me today. If you wouldn't mind giving this video a thumbs up before you head out, I would appreciate it. And if you're new here, click that subscribe button. We hang out like this every Wednesday at 1 p.m. Eastern. Have a great day, everybody.